Yummy, yummy, yummy. I just love rye bread. And this is a beautiful one. I think in the beginning when I tried to do rye bread, it became too hard and too much like a brick. And I thought it was not so easy. But then I found a really nice method and I have used that in the bakery. But here is a recipe that I have worked on to make it really easy to do at home. And I do this all the time at home now. And my wife, she loves rye bread and loves this loaf. So I will show you how to do it. Have you downloaded my app yet? If not, just go in the description and follow the links to either the App Store or Google Play. Once you've downloaded the app, you will find this recipe inside the Academy section. Download the recipe and follow the instructions. When making this recipe, I have 2 rules that you have to follow. If you can follow these rules, you have no problems. I can assure you that. The first rule is that you have a happy and active starter. That's number 1. Number 2 is that you can have a place where the temperature is 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. If you have a place like that, no problem. If you do not have access to a place like that, or you don't have that in your mind yet, then I will give you a tip. You can use the oven. The oven is a perfect chamber where you have a lot of insulation. It can keep a stable temperature for a long time. Now, I have a fancy oven myself, so I could just set it to 30 degrees and it's actually exactly 30 degrees throughout the period. Now, everyone doesn't have that. Before this oven, I didn't have an oven like that, so I would use either the light in the oven. I would just turn on the light. It would go up to 32, 33 degrees, 33 degrees, and I would just turn it off and then let it sink down to 27 degrees, and then I would turn on the light again. If that doesn't work, you can also have a container in the bottom of the oven. Take some water, boil it up, add the boiling water into the bottom of the container and put it in there in the bottom of the oven, close it, and it will generate the heat that you need and keep the heat. And as soon as the heat is going down to maybe 27, 28 degrees, add some water again, some boiling water, and you will keep the chamber hot enough throughout the process. And this is for the fermentation process. We will divide this fermentation process into 3 stages. The first stage is when we make the pre-ferment. I will do the pre-ferment overnight. I make it before I go to bed, the day before I will make the bread. So when I wake up in the morning, I see if the pre-ferment is done, and if it's done, I just put it in the fridge and pause it there for a while. It is important that it's not over fermented, the starter. It needs to be relatively young still. We take the pre-ferment that has gone overnight and we add it into our first dough. And it's just 1-1-1 of flour, water, and sourdough. And we mix this together and then we put it in a really warm spot, our 30 degrees warm spot. And now we start to accelerate the whole process. At the end of this period of 1 hour, 45 minutes, at the end of that, we will then make our second dough. And that will then ferment for another 1 hour, 45 minutes. And at the end of that, we are making the bread directly in the oven. So these are the stages that we go through today. The pre-ferment is also the chance for our organisms to start training into eating the rye flour. I take just a little bit of a sourdough starter into my pre-ferment. It's like 10%. And then because I want the hydration to be reflect the total hydration in the dough that I'm making, I will have 90% water in the pre-ferment. Because the total hydration of this loaf is 90%. It's quite high. Since this is a high hydration dough, it will become more like a paste when you mix everything together. And it is good that it is high hydration, because the higher you go, I noticed, the more airy and fluffy the crumb is at the end result, at the end product. But the problem is that the more water you put in, the flatter your loaf will be. So you can't do too much. You will have to find that sweet spot in the middle. Okay, let's have a little look at the baker's percentage. The tags you see next to the names of the ingredients, these represent the doughs, the first dough and the second dough. The first dough is the blue tag. The second dough is the red tag. We don't change anything in the blue tags, but if you want to change something, it's in the red tags. The flour you cannot change, but you can change the water and the salt. So if you feel that you need to adjust the water, you can do that by adjusting the water content at second water. It's the red tag. And you can also adjust the salt if you want that. Hey, I think you and we have something in common. We both love creating stuff with sourdough. My goal with this channel is to reach out to as many of us as possible and help them make sourdough baking much easier. And if you would like to help me grow this channel, then please subscribe and hit the like button. Back to the video. Okay, today we're making a 1500 gram dough. Let's go into the first dough. It's time to mix the 3 ingredients: rye flour, water and sourdough pre-ferment. It's in equal parts. Now, as I said before, the sourdough pre-ferment is at 5 degrees. That's quite cold. So we need to add warm water, but we don't know how warm. But that's what the water temperature widget is for. Target dough temperature is the temperature you want the dough to hit after we've mixed all the ingredients. As we're going to ferment this at 30 degrees, we want it to be 30 degrees. Then the room temperature that you have is usually the same as the flour temperature, but sometimes that can differ if you store your flour at a different place. But for me, I store the flour at the same temperature as the air temperature is. So it's 25 degrees. It's quite hot inside here. I then put the 5 degrees for the sourdough pre-ferment. And now we're going to consider the friction. The friction is the heat rise that will occur while we mix our ingredients. I would say that it's at 1 degree. And if you're calculating this in Fahrenheit, put in 2 degrees. Now it says that you should heat the water to 46 degrees. So let's do that. I have heated the water now to 45 degrees. And when we mix it, I use my whisk to really dissolve and work the water together with the pre-ferment. So the pre-ferment, to dissolve it totally in the water and work it. That way we get a lot of oxygen into the water and we don't have to work with the flour too much. Then we add the rye flour, and the rye flour then we'll just work the dough into a paste. Like I said before, this will never turn into a dough, it's more like a paste. And we clean up the container and make a ball out of this. Make it really nice. There you go. And now we're going to ferment this for 1 hour and 45 minutes at 30 degrees. Before mixing the second dough, we're going to prepare a bowl with oil. Later we're going to transfer the second dough into this bowl and let it ferment for the second part. Now it's important that it's a high and narrow bowl. When we have a high and narrow bowl, we can keep the shape like that. And when we turn it upside down, it will keep a high level instead of spreading out like a pancake. It will spread out a little bit, but at least we can keep it as high as possible. It is not important what type of bowl it is. I just found this salad bowl, and I'm going to use this just to prove that it is not important what type of tools you use. You can succeed with what you have at home in your kitchen. Okay, our dough has fermented for 1 hour and 45 minutes. We can see holes starting to appear in the surface of the dough. And also between the holes we see some cracks starting to build. And this tells us that the dough is about to collapse. It might have another half hour, but we're going to take it before it collapses. Now these are all signs that you look for. And it means that inside the dough, the production of carbon dioxide is more or too much for the integrity of the dough. And then if we produce more carbon dioxide at this point, it will collapse. And that's not what we want. We want to start mixing the dough before it collapses. When we look inside, we can see that the bubbles have started to form. There is a huge production of carbon dioxide just by looking at the spiderweb network inside the dough. When mixing the dough, I start by adding the salt, and then I add water, and it's going to be 30 degrees hot water, 30 degrees. And then I mix with the whisk ingredients, and I mix it well so that the oxygen really goes into the mix. After that, we'll just add the flour as before and start mixing it like we did in the first dough. Then we clean it up and we will transfer this into the bowl that we put oil in before. And then it's going to ferment in this bowl for another 1 hour and 45 minutes minimum. As I was fermenting this in the oven, I took it out after 1 hour and I started to heat up my oven after 1 hour. I put it at the highest, it is 280 degrees Celsius. As I took it out before, I let it go for 2 hours. So it's been fermenting for 2 hours when it looks like this. And you can see the holes are there, and in between the holes we have cracks starting to build. And now you have to be a little bit brave. Let go a little bit longer, but don't let it go too long. Don't be too brave. Yeah, I decide that it looks good right now. So I'm going to transfer it onto my pizza shovel. And from the pizza shovel, I will put it in the oven. It is good to use flour to loosen up the edges. When you have a bowl like I have, it will get stuck a little bit. So I am carefully trying to remove the dough from the sides of the bowl. When I feel like I can turn it upside down and it will move to the pizza shovel, I'm going to do that. I turn it upside down, and voila, it's on the pizza shovel like that. I will add some flour on it too, in order to make it look nice. This is just to make it look nice, and then cracks will form around the surface of the loaf too and make it look beautiful. Now let's transfer this into the oven. The oven was set to 280 degrees. That means the highest temperature that my oven allowed, and you will use the highest temperature in your oven too. When putting it in, I will keep it there. First, I will add some steam into the oven by putting boiling water into my cast iron plate I have in the bottom. Then close the oven, and I will keep the temperature at the highest for another 10 minutes. Why do we want the temperature to be this high? Well, there is something called amylase. Amylase is when the flour in your bread is converting into sugar. This happens in a temperature range, and it's usually between 60 and 70 degrees somewhere. But when we talk about rye flour, this happens really early. When the flour is converted into sugar, we get like a sticky mess, and it will look like the bread is not cooked, no matter how long you cook it. This sticky mess is what we want to avoid. That means we're gonna have to have a high temperature at the beginning to really pass through this window as fast as possible. That way we have a more bready crumb at the end. Okay, let's recap the baking phase of this project. The first thing we need to do is to preheat the oven and heat up the baking surface that is underneath the bread in the oven. That will take at least 40 minutes. So 40 minutes before, turn on the oven. But if you are fermenting your loaf inside the oven, you have to take it out before you turn on the oven. Remember that. When the oven is ready and hot, and you see that your dough is perfectly ready, it's time to turn it upside down and onto our pizza shovel, and then directly into the oven. Don't wait, because the loaf will start to flatten out. Into the oven, and then add the steam directly. And then the first 10 minutes, keep it at the maximum heat. This is important. So heat and steam will help push through the amylase phase. Then after 10 minutes, turn down the oven to 220 degrees. That's 430 degrees Fahrenheit, 220 degrees Celsius. Let it go for at least 40 minutes. After 50 minutes of baking, your loaf should be done. You can also add a little extra heat in the end to add those caramelization notes into your loaf. But it should be done after 50 minutes. But this can also vary depending on the size of your loaf. And you can see this is very nice with the honeycomb holes inside, and it's you feel it, it's crackling. The crust tastes like knäckebröd. It's a Swedish hard bread, and the crumb is really has a really intense flavor of rye, and it's just wonderful with some butter on it, and that's it. Lovely bread. And this one will last for over a week if you keep it in a good place. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you have a really successful experience with this awesome method of baking rye bread. Until next time, I wish you a happy bake.